the flip side is how the Democrats are responding to this, and there is clearly a fight going on in the Democratic Party right now. It's unclear to me exactly where everybody lines up, but we're watching Rahm Emanuel, get out there, and Slotnick complained the Slotkin, sorry,
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Slotkin.
Alyssa Slotkin.
You made me doubt myself too.
Whatever.
It's okay.
She, arguing that people don't know what the word oligarchy means, and all these idiots are showing up on this massive tour, apparently without any idea of what they're going to see.
Yeah.
And then I can't quite figure out what's going on with Martin and Hogg.
Yeah.
At the DNC. I don't know if Hogg is looking for candidates on the same sort of criteria that I would be.
I heard him say progressive, which was encouraging, but I would like to know more information about, what the credentials are for the primary challengers.
Yeah, I don't. I'm. That's just a branding tool at this point.
Yeah.
But,
I'm David Hogg curious. Let's say that.
Yes.
Exactly.
Well, I like the idea of primaries, and I like the fact that, like, the DNC, there is at least someone at the DNC who realizes we need to have a little bit more churn than we're having, with our candidates. It's just unclear to me what, his credentials are in that instance. What is your sense of how this fight is breaking down? Like, what's the next step? I mean, it feels like there's Bernie and AOC who are staking out a vision for where Democrats go. Buttigieg is on his tour of podcasts, which, let 1,000 flowers bloom. But where is the person that I want to vote for going on those podcasts? What's your sense of that? Or is it just too nascent?
I know. I think there are some interesting dynamics developing. I mean, so first of all, the immediate instinct from most Democrats after Trump's victory and the quote unquote vibe shift was to run and hide, capitulate, vote for the Lake and Riley Act, Mika and Joe to run to Mar-a-Lago, et cetera. And so the people who really stepped in the breach were mostly on the left. I mean, it mostly was Bernie, AOC, you could name a few others, Maxwell Frost. Jasmine Crockett is not exactly where we are, but you had a few people emerge. And Bernie and AOC have really taken command. They've provided the intellectual framing. They've given people something to do by, showing up at these big rallies and being in solidarity together. And so I think they've been really, really important. And you also have a sense that, okay, the way that the establishment Democrats were fighting Trump, it didn't work, right? It was a failure. And meanwhile, it starts to become pretty obvious that some of the things that Bernie was saying were correct and had enough juice to fight the fascist onslaught that we're seeing now. Whereas the liberal approach, embodied by Biden, embodied by Kamala, did not have enough strength to meet the moment and did not offer enough of a narrative, an oppositional narrative to what Trump and and his fellow fascists are ultimately pushing. So I think the Democratic base, mostly they just want people who are putting up a fight because they feel themselves under threat. But I also think they have become ideologically more radicalized on a broad variety of issues. I mean, you see this in the Ouija posting. You see this just in terms of, the way they're showing up at these town halls and the issues that they're talking about, where they are in Palestine, all of those sorts of things. And so, I've been watching some MSNBC lately, and for some of these hosts, that is very uncomfortable that Bernie and AOC are really the leaders of the Democratic Party. And, the Rahm Emanuel wing of the party is never going to be okay with that. Doesn't matter what. And so people are starting to reveal which side of this divide they're ultimately on. Some of the people, I have to give credit to Nicole Wallace. I think she genuinely sees Trump as a fascist threat, genuinely sees Bernie and AOC out there doing something successful and is like, great, let's go with that. And then I think you see other people like Alyssa Slotkin, who clearly sees something that's working and wants to try to undermine it. And, it's going to be, I think we're going to have more people revealing themselves over the coming months of who is going to say, okay, this is the direction that is working, that people are responding to, we can do something with, and who are going to actively try to undercut it also like the abundance agenda people kind of, fit into this somewhere as well. But yeah, I think that's where I see things shaking out. And the last thing I'll say is that I've been thinking about recently is it goes back to the millionaire tax thing. Trump says, oh, the public won't support a millionaire tax. He also said that it would be very disruptive. Imagine this man saying that this would be too disruptive and millionaires will leave the country, et cetera. I saw someone saying, listen, if you actually polled millionaires, would you rather get taxed a little bit more through a millionaire's tax, like something, or a wealth tax, something that AOC or Bernie would propose? Or would you rather have this insane trade war that could literally destroy the entire global economy? Like, there is no doubt what they would pick. And so I think that Trumpism right now is making a more left-wing solution not only more, necessary for a Democratic base, but more palatable across the board, because you see the alternative is not only a loss of democracy, which business doesn't really care about, not only a rise of fascism, but a complete potential economic devastation that is also unacceptable. And so it reminds me of the way that the FDR coalition was able to come together as okay, well, if you business leaders don't get on board with this, where you're having to be yes, tax more and yes, fund more of a social safety net, the communists are either going to take your shit or you've got the fascists waiting in the wings as well. Now, some of the business would have gone with the fascists, but enough was able to come together that you're able to create this durable coalition. So I think there are some remarkable political possibilities that exist right now that did not exist in the past. However, I'm also acutely aware that we have to even get to that point, and I am worried about, even being able to make it to elections that are free and fair enough that people genuinely have a choice of the political direction of the future.
We're going to talk later in the fun half about this millionaire tax, because to me, what it shows is fundamentally, there is no populist movement amongst the Republicans. There may be a faction, Steve Bannon may have some vision for this, but fundamentally, there's just no way they're going to raise taxes on wealthy people. It is a Republican Party. He is a Republican president. He still needs them on some level. He dallied, he played footsie with it for a day or two. Somebody brought it up in the White House, and it was immediately leaked, and every, Republican stalwart jumped on it, including Mike Johnson. But the thing in terms of with the Democrats that is really different now than I think was 8 years ago. In 2017, at this time, it was something like 60% of Democrats, if you asked them, what do you want Democrats to do with the Trump administration? They would have said compromise. Compromise,
right.
Come to a middle ground on legislation, et cetera, et cetera. It is completely flipped now.
Yep.
And I think that's in part because of Trump, but I think it's also in part in terms of generationally people understanding where the Republican Party is. And the only people who are going out there, like you say, who are taking a polarized position was AOC and Bernie. And Chuck Schumer goes in, it's well, we got to fund the government because it's the only way. I got to get on my anti-Semitism tour. And I think people like Slotkin see that and say, okay, I'm going to make it look like I'm having a fight by saying the word fight and tough in football.
Yeah.
But she's not really having that much of a fight. It's all got to be on the process stuff, which I think is very important, obviously. And I really do think that Trump is an authoritarian threat. But on a policy level, what legislation would she do that the Republicans aren't going to do in some fashion? She may temper the distribution of tax cuts and whatnot, but I'm just not there. There's no clear polarized lines. They'll say, kitchen table issues, but they won't actually describe what that is.
Yeah.
It's just it's fascinating. What should we be talking about? Kitchen table issues. What are those?
Right. Well, and
we should be talking about more.
This is the power of the oligarchy frame, is that encompasses not only the assault on democracy, but also it's a material critique 100%. As well. And so that's why I think it's actually the perfect framing, because you can hang not only the, tax cuts for the rich on it, you can also hang the, mass deportation with no due process into a foreign gulag and assault on all of our rights, the insider trading, Doge and the defenestration of the regulatory state so that big business and the favored oligarch class can do whatever they want. There's all sorts of, pieces that the Trump administration is fomenting right now that fit squarely into that framing. And again, it's both about your rights and democracy, but it's also has the right sort of divisive politics that is around a class critique. And so, which is exactly why these Alyssa Slotkins of the world say, oh, no, not that. Let's not talk about that, right? Because it's uncomfortable for her and, whatever part of the Democratic Party that she represents. And I'll be watching Pete very closely, because I do think, Pete has rhetorical skill. I think he came off pretty well in that podcast. He can go into Fox News, et cetera, but I'm very skeptical of him and, expect him much more to align with the sort of Alyssa Slotkin wing of the party. I could easily see a sort of like AOC versus Pete primary coming at us in 2028.
I wonder if Slotkin would appreciate more like eat the rich campaigns.
Right. Well, that's what's served on the kitchen table.
That.
Right.
Well,
well, that's so
Those
complicated.
are my kitchen table
I don't
issues.
get it.
Yeah.
Actually, eat the rich. It's too complicated.
Yeah.
Substitute what you want for the word oligarchy.
Right.
It's impressive that she's trying to make that argument in Michigan of all places.
Yeah.
Right. Because you get a little bit higher union density there, and people. That's not a word that people is so. I guess bizarre for people in Michigan. I know we'll see how far that goes. Krystal Ball, thank you so much for your time today. People will put a link obviously to Krystal Kyle and friends and to Breaking Points. Appreciate your time.
Doing great work over there.
Thanks. Thanks. You guys too. Always great to see you.
Great to see you.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.